So good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is the final of our fall break. So it's been a crazy 3 weeks here. And I hate how Indiana has done this and like spread it out forever. But anyways, here we are. We're getting through it all. And it's been a beautiful fall this week. So I love that. All right. So the conversation I wanted to have today with you all is one that we need to add to the script book for next year. So we have in the script book already the value of paying a buyer agent commission to a seller, right? Why should a seller go ahead and offer a buyer agent commission to the buyers? What I don't have in writing is what is the value of your buyers for paying you the buyer agent commission, right? Why should they hire you as their buyer agent, and why should they pay you the amount that you're charging for that? Okay, so that's kind of what we were going to do today, unless you have other things you would rather do. So I'm going to open the chat box, and if anyone has something they've been struggling with or really want to talk about. Here's the other thing. For the rest of the year, I want to make sure you guys are hitting the hot buttons you need. Okay, so if there's any scripts you're struggling with, any part of the transaction you need help with, if buyer expectations are harder right now, seller expectations, right? Let's talk about those things that you guys really, really, really need. Okay, so throw those in the chat box if you have anything. Good morning, good morning. All right, so let's talk buyer agent commission. How many of you are getting objections when you talk to your buyers about the buyer agent commission? Not really? Okay. How often is the seller covering it for the buyer? What's the percentage you're seeing? Pretty much all the time? Okay, good. So that makes it a lot easier, right? To handle those objections when they're going to pay for it. I think the most challenging part is that you have to have them mentally and financially prepared for if they don't, right? So that's the objection you've got to make sure you're handling in the beginning, because there's a lot of things that can happen in the transaction, right? To make that go away or change or something like that. Okay. So let's talk. What I want to do is I first want to talk through what is the value that you provide your buyers. Okay. And, I always like to talk dollar for dollar, right? So, how can them hiring you as their buyer agent literally make them more money? Okay. So when you know how to have this conversation exactly like that, it makes it real easy, right? So you should hire me regardless of what the seller is going to cover for you. And here's why I'm worth every single penny you'll hire me for, right? Then if as part of the negotiations, we have a seller offering commission, that's fantastic. And we'll be able to potentially negotiate that money somewhere else, right? So it'll still be all part of the package and the negotiations we're trying to work on, okay? So let's first start with the value, right? Open your chat boxes, shout it out, whatever. What is the value? Why should a buyer hire you, and how will you make them more money in the transaction?
Well, your
Oh,
experience
you
can
guys.
get them a higher price, therefore they make more money.
Yes, good job. So experience, right? Your experience in the market, your experience negotiating, right? You can absolutely help them in their negotiating to get them the best deal, right? That's number one. So you can negotiate it down to get them the best deal. You also can tell them if they're buying in a high appreciation area or a slower appreciation area, right? And laying both of those side by side, you can tell them how much potentially more money they might make on one house versus another, right? These are all things you might lose track of as you're negotiating. So you can get them the best deal. You can also help get them the best investment. Okay, so that's something your experience absolutely does. All right, what else? How else can you make your buyers money by you representing them? You guys are all good on this call. So this is a safe space. Don't be afraid to say anything. You're probably all thinking of the same stuff. Okay. Availability, Brandy. Talk to me about that. How does your availability make a buyer more money? Yep. Communication. Yep. Go
So
ahead.
I feel like being on top of it when they want to see a home, not waiting too long, just being there for them immediately.
Okay.
It's hard, but being that first one in and making that first offer is usually the first offer is always the best offer. So I always try to get there
Ah,
ASAP. Mm-hmm.
I love that, right? And that is a beautiful strategy, right? That Brandy
Mm-hmm.
brings to her buyers. I have the strategies that will win you offers in the market of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, in the current market, my experience is showing me that the first offer to the table and the first one in the door, if you show you're committed and ready to purchase that home, it oftentimes will get you the offer. Great. So share these strategies with people. Communication, right? Communication is key. You've got to have someone that's going to be open and honest with you from the standpoint of the buyer, right? They're going to tell you everything they see that could be a challenge, everything they see that could affect the value of this property, right? Everything they see that could affect the investment long term of this property, the resale on the other end, all of that kind of stuff, right? So your open and honest communication with them throughout the process on behalf of them and their best interests. Yes, Brandy is a huge one.
And I feel like communication with the other agent, letting them know that
Mm.
too. That like
Oh
telling
my
them
God,
they're just so
don't miss
clueless
that
with
one.
everything. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. Right. Open and honest communication with the other agent is everything. And this is a big one to say right in the beginning, too, because then when you run into agents who are awful at communication, right, you can back them right back up to remember when we talked about there are some agents that we might face and deal with that are going to be bad communicators. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm a good communicator. And what that means is I take on the role of professional stalker. That was always my script, right? I am not afraid to stalk another agent when it comes down to what we need to put our transaction together. So I want you to know you've hired a great stalker, and I will not stop. I will call, I will text, I will email, and eventually show up at their office if I have to, because they're not communicating, right? That's so good, Brandy. Here's the other thing that your experience gives you when we're talking about cooperating agents, right? You know the players, okay? You know the players in the market you're working in. You know the personalities of the players that are in the market that you're working in. And oftentimes you'll know the negotiation strategy of the other agents in the market you're selling in, right? So for instance, you get an idea of, hey, I know this agent, this is always the way that they negotiate on their inspections. So we can just expect that from this, agent when they represent their buyer, right? All of that is your experience you bring that there is not a consumer on earth that can get to that access of the value and the information. Okay, so what we're talking about today is really being able to explain all of this at a detailed level and writing it out for them, right? So I'm going to give you the script in the script book, and then you definitely need something in your buyer agency consultations that spells this out. Here's how I'm going to make you more money by hiring me. Okay, awesome. So we went through experience, we went through communication. Alyssa, getting to the listing faster, right? And then knowing what to do once we get to the listing. That's a huge thing, right? You're going to assess how the listing is positioned in the market, right? What strategy are they using for their possible target for this buyer, right? And then how are we going to come in and either match or go against that, right? So I can also, let's talk about getting to the listings faster as well, potentially know of listings that aren't even listed yet, right, guys? You know of listings that aren't listed yet from buyers you've sold that would be like, yeah, no, we are not interested in selling, and we are totally interested if the right buyer would come along, right? And you're talking to other agents in the market constantly about what they have and where their listings are and what they might have off market or coming, right? That's part of your job, right? Get those out there. You know about the things that the consumers may not know about already, right? That might be in your hands first. Okay, awesome. What else? What else? What else? We're missing a good one here. What about lender and financial guidance? Right? Getting them to a lender that you know provides competitive products in the market, right? Matching them up with a lender that you know can get the deal done, isn't going to cause any weird red hoops for the buyer, right? Is going to have a nice, smooth closing or nice, smooth process to closing. What's the other part of the financing piece that you help buyers make money on, right? How much they should pay for it, but then also understanding, right, how much are they going to make on this purchase potentially in the current market conditions, right? And then what's the condition of the property? We're going to get into the inspection in just a minute. But right, and understanding what's the condition of this property? What are they going to have to put into it in the long term to be able to make it saleable on the other end? All of that kind of stuff. Okay, let's go for inspections. I think this is the most tangible one, right? Where you can absolutely show them how you can save them money. Okay, so knowing, again, the market, you have to know the current market conditions to fully understand what is acceptable to ask for on any given inspection, right? Because that can absolutely change depending on what listing you're standing in and what the market the seller is facing at that time, right? If they've got 15 offers, you might not be able to negotiate as much. If they've been on the market 150 days, you probably can, right? So your number one ability to understand the current market and understand the conditions that are acceptable and not acceptable for every sale. Okay, so what will the seller potentially take? If our goal is to get to the closing table with the most important things done that will save us money, right? How do we structure that to make sure you get that? That's how I'm going to help you do it, right? Helping them through the inspection, what we prioritize to ask for, what we don't, right? Every bit of that can make them money along the line. Okay. So don't forget your inspection negotiation. And then finally, and this one went in through all the things, right? But kind of back to the players, back to the experience, back to the communication, it all ties up in, right? The team you have around you to get this thing to closing, right? Whether it's your transaction manager, whether it's your marketing team that's going to help your sellers, whether it's the title company, the inspector, the lender, right? All those people. You are going to manage to make sure all this puzzle comes together and gets to the closing table successfully. Okay. Okay, awesome. So let's just kind of summarize those. And then I'm going to jump before we get off today and talk about some of the numbers you can use to show how you're doing. Okay, so be thinking that too. Okay, so some of the ways that you can make your buyers more money by paying you. And here's the other thing, guys. You will hear in my scripts, I did not negotiate commission. And here's why. Okay, I'll give you the exact script I used for buyers and sellers. I am happy to negotiate my commission, and I oftentimes do in the transactions. However, what I find is more helpful is not to negotiate now on the front end, but let's wait and save that for when we might have a struggle negotiating with the opposite party and need that money to save a deal. Does that sound good? Okay. So 3.5 is what I charge. Okay. And we can talk about that. Now, go in it higher, right? Then you know right off the bat, you can potentially negotiate down to what you like to get, or right, any of that kind of stuff, what you expect. Okay. But make sure they understand that. Here's why I charge it, and here's why you're going to make it back. Okay. My experience in the market, all the things we just talked about, right? My communication, my open communication with you, with the market, with the other agent, all the things, right? My ability to help you negotiate for the right price, the right conditions on the inspections, and for what is acceptable at any market time. And maybe the best one, I know the players, right? I'm in this market. I know what we're up against. I know who we're up against, and I know what's happening in this market. Okay, awesome. So let's jump over now, right? Because it's one thing to tell them that, but the other side of telling anyone anything is obviously to show them, right? So you have to be able to show them how you make buyers more money than potentially the rest of the market. Okay, so talk to me about some of the numbers, some of the research you might go do to be able to present that to your buyers and say, see, it's right here. Here's exactly how I do it. What do you guys have in mind? And this, guys, is when it's going to be important to have a closing sheet where you can separate out your sellers and your buyers. Okay, so you can just look at your buyer numbers. Dan, I saw you about to come off mute before I
All
started
right, I was
blabbing.
asking, are you talking about you specifically or the market? Which one are you?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Just like on the listings, we're going to take those numbers and we're going to compare it to the market. Okay. So on our listings, we talk about days on the market. We talk about list to sale price, right? Right now, this morning, the list to sale price was about 98%. Okay. Now that's on everything. So I'd have it separated out buyers and sellers. But you can probably get your sellers more than that. Okay. 103%. However, when you pull just your buyers list to sold, you'll probably see it lower.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to know what the market's doing, the current 98% that it's at, and what that's the first one we can use, right? List to sale prices for your buyers. Okay. Now, again, numbers are there to tell the right story. If you are not negotiating better than the market, don't use that data point. Okay. And maybe look at how you can, right? Okay. So awesome. So your list to sale price for your buyers. What else could you use? What about just the overall number of successful buyers you've had? Right? So you can say, we've already represented amount of buyers in the last so many days that have successfully made it in this market. Okay. So you can use buyer numbers you've represented. What
Hey,
else?
Julie.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good
Well,
morning.
I've used my brokerage stats as well. Because when you say we,
Absolutely. That's that team, right?
That's
That's that
I
team.
used the brokerage
Yes, sir.
stats as well. So, and you still
Beautiful.
being honest because you're
Yep.
saying we,
Still being honest.
right? So,
Absolutely. Yes, James. No, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a huge point. And here's where your office can really come to help you and your brokerages is when you're talking about market share in a specific area, right? If they are looking for houses in X, Y, and Z, and you can show we have the majority of the market share in those areas, right? It can absolutely help you to say we've got our hand on the pulse of the market here. Great point. And of course, all the buyers you represented that list a sale price. Awesome. Okay. What else could we use? What else? The list to sale price, maybe the buyers you've successfully represented and your brokerage, your market. Well, what did I just say, you guys? I lost that word. But about how much of the market you control, your brokerage controls, right? How plugged into the market are you? That's the number I'm looking for that I can't find the word. Okay, what else?
Are you talking about market share?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Market share, market share. Share, that's a hard word on the mornings. Thank you. Okay, give me a couple others. What are a couple other ways that you could potentially use numbers you might have in your business to show them you make your buyers more money?
Well, maybe not more money, but just your average sales price, just to show kind of what level you play in.
Yep, absolutely, right? You can show if, right, you represent a lot of investors at a certain price point in a certain area, right? You represent a higher price point. You represent the majority of buyers in the median price point in this area, in this market. That's an awesome one, Dan. So show them where you play and how where you play can help them make more money. Awesome. Brandy?
I have one, your testimonials.
Yes. Success stories, right? Show them your testimonials. Show them your buyers that have already purchased successfully
And
with
I
you
can
and
share a
share their
success
prices.
story that I had. Well,
Please.
I just pinned it with a buyer, with buyers that were shopping for a realtor and a brokerage.
Mhm.
Like, and they said they had just looked around and they looked at testimonials and they liked mine, and that's how they contacted me. Yeah.
Look
I'm
at
like, you do not,
that.
I told them, I said, you don't understand what that does for a realtor. So yeah, it was exciting to hear.
Absolutely. Oh, that's super exciting. Yes, good job. Okay, so that's a huge aha. Make sure your testimonials are up to date and out there for the world to see. If they're in a file in your file cabinet, they don't have the ability to look at them and compare them to others, right? So make sure your testimonials are getting out there where the public can see them. Great one, Brandy. Give me a couple others. There's two I've got on the top of my head that I want to make sure we get. Two other ways that you can make buyers more money.
I'm not sure if it's the same, but I actually um, answer my phone
Yeah.
because I've called agents. It was the right property for my client. The voicemail was full. They did not. They did not pick up the phone or respond
Of
to
course.
email attacks.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. That's right back to
can be
that
a little frustrating.
communication. Totally. Totally. Right. And you are going to be that ultimate professional that will make sure, right? Consumers can get to you and other agents can get to you when they need you to have a successful transaction. Yes. Beautiful. Okay, real quick, let me talk to you about these other two that I have on my head. So, number one, you can keep track of the amount of inspection repairs you're negotiating or credits towards inspections you're negotiating. Okay, that's a great number to show people. Over just the past 60 days, we've been able to negotiate $30,000 in inspection repairs on behalf of our buyers. Okay. It's a really good one to have if you're doing a good job negotiating on those kind of things and you have a good number to help them, right? The other thing is an average. Okay. So what's the average negotiation that you're coming down for repairs on your inspections, right? So you could say on average, I negotiate another 2.5% off the purchase price towards inspection conditions. Okay, so that's direct money back into their pocket that you can show them if you know those numbers for yourself. Okay. And then inspection repairs, inspection credits you had. Oh, yes. I was like, I know I had one more. Okay. And pending fallouts. Okay. I looked in our market this morning, pending fallouts are up 16%. Right? If you can show them that on average you have 5% that falls out, and right now you're still having 5%, you are maintaining your percentage of properties that are successfully getting to closing versus the market, who many more are falling apart and not getting to close. Okay, so that's a number you can use that is out there and you can actually look at.
Really quickly, how do
Dan?
you find that information? How did you find that on my board?
Okay, so my board, we have the market insights. Okay, and it's, I believe, the top left graphic. You want the one that shows you the line, and then you've got to go to the top, and it has all the options you can choose for everything. It's all the way at the bottom, pending fallouts. Okay, anything you want to see there is in there. Like, it'll have list of sale price, days on the market, all of those things. So, yep, anywhere in your market insight. So your MLS should have something like that that will summarize all of that for you. Okay. Yep. And then, right, I've been spouting, you got to run your business like a CEO, right? So think about that. CEOs take their numbers and then they throw it out and make it a million different ways to learn from it, right? Exactly what you guys need to be learning from your numbers. What are you doing with your buyers, right? How are you stacking up compared to the market? Buyer versus sellers, where are you, right? You got to know these numbers. Have you ever kept the amount on average that you negotiated down for inspection repairs, right? You got to have that stuff on your spreadsheet so you can use those numbers in the future. Okay, so a lot of this is thinking like a CEO, right? And how do I take the 360-degree view of my business and then take it back out there and show everyone in the market why they should hire me because of it? Okay. So before you guys get off, we've got 3 minutes here. I want you to throw in the chat box any scripts or challenges you're specifically having in the market right now that will help you get through the end of this year. Okay. Oh my gosh, we have like 8 weeks left in this, 7 weeks, I think, left in this year. Isn't that crazy? So put in the chat box what scripts, what conversations you want to talk through. A couple of things we have not done yet is the setting expectations, right? So the bulletproofing of the transactions. What conversations do we need to have before they happen in the transaction to make sure it stays together? So that's one that could be helpful in the current market conditions. What else do you guys need? Coach's pick, coach's choice. Fine with me. I'll keep bringing you great stuff. Okay, but I just want to make sure I'm hitting what you guys need. So of course, at any point, reach out to me, text me, email me, call me, right? Tell me what kind of scripts you need. And next week, we will be back with more. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Hey, Julie,
Yes, sir.
I had no idea you was a stalker.
Professional, self-appointed professional stalker. Yes, I know. It's
Yes,
funny.
ma'am.
My admin actually got me a name tag because she heard me use that script over and over and over with our clients, and she got me a name tag that said professional stalker.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna use that. But that was
Please
pretty
do.
clever. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and it gets them
Yeah.
laughing and then truly understanding what you mean, right? Like, yeah, I'm not
Correct.
afraid. That is my communication style, is that I am a bulldog and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day.
I love it. Thank
All
you.
right.
You too.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye.